Okay, hello guys. Today we're talking about the inverse trigonometric functions. Okay, that will be the first part of it. So what is about inverse function? So maybe before we have already learned about like a quadratic function like y equals to 3x squared plus 4x minus 1, right? So you want to calculate the inverse function of it, you have to first just inverse or just to transfer the x and y, right? So here it can be written as x equals to 3y squared plus 4y minus 1. So then you can calculate the exact y value of it, okay? So also for the trigonometry like y equals to sine x, so you can just set, maybe we have to first inverse x and y, so that is x equals to sine y. So right now you can just reason that as y equals to sine negative 1x, okay? That is an inverse function of sine x, okay? That is it. And also this can be written as arc sine x, like this way. That is it. So remember that for the sine function and cosine function, because the inverse function always is a symmetrical graph by y equals to x, the line, right? Like for example, like we said y equals to x squared, we can say that the inverse function is for y equals to square root x. So that is for this. This is y equals to x squared, here is for y equals to square root x. So they have the same graph, but they are symmetrical graph among y equals to x, right? That is inverse trigonometry right here. Okay, so for the sine function, we have said we have to only choose this part of the sine function to find the inverse, like here, this is for sine function. And here the inverse function is like this, sine function, and the inverse function like this way. Okay, that is it. So before we had the domain for a sine function is for negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. So now domain and range has to switch it. So now domain becomes negative 1 to 1, and the range for sine x inverse function is for negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. Okay. So also for cosine function, we just choose a part of cosine function like this way. That is for cosine function. And after you inverse it like this way, sorry for that. Okay, that is it. So you can say like the red curve is symmetrical to the purple curve among y equals to x, like this way. Okay, so because for the cosine function, the domain is for 0 to pi, right? And the range is for negative 1 to 1. So after that, the cosine x inverse function's domain and range is inverse. So domain is for negative 1 to 1, and the range is for 0 to pi. Okay. And also for tangent function we always choosing the central period like this. Okay, so here domain is from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, and the range is from negative unlimited to positive unlimited. So here the domain and the range also swapped. Okay, so now domain is from negative unlimited to unlimited, and the range is from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. So you can just try to draw this like this way. Okay, so here is for negative pi over 2, here's for pi over 2. Okay, that's how we can calculate the inverse function of the trigonometry. They are very important for you. So that's for this our lesson. See you next time. Bye.